everybody! Today is the long-awaited and kind of procrastinated video of Ask a Police Wife. I got a bunch of great messages from you guys. I've got a good little list of questions here and we are gonna dive in. Let's get started. Not going to tell the names of anybody who has sent in questions, so those of you who did, thank you, and you know who you are, and you guys are awesome. Question number 1, is it hard being a police wife? The easy answer to that is sometimes. Oftentimes it's pretty simple because you don't really think about a lot of it, and my husband's really good about not bringing work home. Sometimes he has situations that he has dealt with at work and he can't quite shake them, and so that can become difficult at times. Or sometimes the anxiety gets crazy depending on what's happening in the city or the area that he works in. If I'm aware of certain things, like for example last year during the protesting that went throughout the summer, all these people that wanted to cause harm to police officers, and their way that they wanted to do it was they wanted to hurt the police officers' families, and all of these different crazy things that were happening, and that was a really difficult time to be a police wife. It's definitely a lifestyle change in a lot of ways, but overall it hasn't been difficult, and it's actually been a really great life for the most part. Question number 2. Does your husband get home late a lot? When he worked at the jail, no, it was pretty rare. When he worked in the big city near us, a lot of times he was late, especially when he got to being K9. If they're tracking someone, they're not going to just go, oh, my shift's over. Sorry, didn't find the guy. There's a lot of times the big reason that they're late is that they will be dealing with whatever situation. Maybe they've got to take a guy to jail, or maybe they've got to wait for somebody to come pick up their buddy that's intoxicated. I don't know, all kinds of different situations like that where they've got to be there for an extended period of time. But now after the fact, they've got to write out their reports. So most of the time when he's late, it's because he's sitting in his patrol car somewhere typing out reports. Usually the times that he's coming home late are the times that we have something important planned. Just, you know, the way the universe works. How do you help with their anxiety-ridden and stressful days? So that is a big question. I feel like it depends on who your officer is and what is their favorite way to receive love. I like to do small little acts of service for him. I often will get the kids involved in that. I'm doing fun little surprises for him, buying cute little gifts for him every once in a while. Sometimes if I know he's had a bad day at work, I'll make his favorite dinner, or I'll make a dessert for him. I'll bake cookies or something like that. I think that a big part of helping him through is just being there, being willing to listen when he's ready to talk. And I think that's a key point right there, is not forcing him to talk to me. And I used to think years ago that he wasn't talking to me, there's something wrong, when the reality is when we tell a story, we put ourselves emotionally and mentally back in that moment. And a lot of times he doesn't want to share these stories of things that he's been involved in at work because he doesn't want to have to relive them. A big part of how I help him is that I wait until he's ready to talk to me. There was a time last year that I could see the weight of the job was getting to be so heavy on him, and he was hurting badly. And the way that I helped him at that point is by forcing him to go to counseling. He didn't want to go to therapy. He didn't feel like it would be helpful. I basically told him, look, this is more than I can handle. I can't help you through this. I don't have a clue how to help you through this, and I'm not going to just sit here and watch you suffer. I called the therapist. I set his first appointment, and I went with him to the first visit, getting him to recognize that it's okay to not be okay, especially with the heavy crap that he deals with at work. That is probably my best advice, is to watch their behaviors, watch the way they interact with people. When you see red flags, when you see things that are not normal for that person, say something, get involved. That would probably be the best way to help support him, I think. How do you trust him? And then how does he trust you? You know, if we're talking in general, how do we trust each other? There's a lot of faith that goes into that. And I think that is any relationship of any kind. We've worked very hard in our 17 years of marriage to not give the other person a reason to not trust us. We're very open with each other. We're very honest. When we're struggling, we voice that. We don't bottle things up and then explode later on. And we forgive really fast. I think that's a huge, huge important thing too in being able to trust them. I wouldn't feel safe opening up to him if I didn't know that he was going to forgive when I make mistakes and move forward in a loving, kind way. And I have to do the same for him. When mistakes do occur, I have to be willing to forgive quickly and move forward. What is a typical day like when he is at work? At his new department, he works 12-hour shifts. It's a long shift. By the time he's done with a full 12-hour day and comes home, he's tired, he wants to eat dinner, he wants to go to bed. Just isn't involved most of the day. And then he comes home, we have family dinner. Sometimes we'll sit down and watch a show as a family, or we'll read a book together as a family. Sometimes we'll do a little bit of religious study, like reading scriptures or doing a small family lesson. And we'll say family prayers and he goes to bed. What is a typical day when he is home? We try to do family activities as much as possible. Sometimes that family activity is working in the backyard and pulling weeds and getting things where we want them to be. Sometimes the family activity is cleaning the house. Sometimes the family activity is going bowling, or sometimes it's going for a hike, or sometimes it's just going for a drive in the mountains. We try to really embrace family time as much as we can. We really enjoy being together, and we try to take advantage of that as much as possible. And then we are human, so there are also some days that we all stay in pajamas all day and the kids play video games all day and Chris and I scroll on our phones all day. Those days aren't very often, but I think we all need that permission to just take a day off. Why are cops so rude when they pull you over? I'm gonna out myself here. I've been pulled over a lot in my life. Kind of have a lead foot. And I like to speed. I've gotten so much better over the years, but I have been pulled over a number of times, especially my teenage years. A lot of how the cop treats you is how you're treating them. That is a big part of it. And I'm not saying that you're being rude necessarily, but how you approach the situation, a lot of times you're going to get that back. So if they come up and you're kind of grumpy with them or you're curt with them, they're going to behave the same way back to you. Another thing to consider is you have no idea what call they just came from. So they're pulling you over because maybe your brake light is out or something like that, which is not a big deal. And maybe they're not super kind to you about it. And I really like to be as forgiving as possible in that scenario, because I don't know if they just finished a call where it was a car accident and, you know, a family was ripped apart and people passed away. I don't know if he just came from a domestic violence situation where a man just beat his wife near death. I don't know if he just finished going to a parent's house and informing them that they have found their child who committed suicide. I don't know what they have come from. And I don't want to have to see the horrific things that they do. I've seen a statistic that says that the average person will deal with anywhere from 1 to 3 critical incidents in their lifetime, where they are having to do CPR, or there's an emergent situation where there's blood everywhere, or somebody breaks into their home with a weapon, something of that nature. 1 to 3 for the average person. The average police officer will deal with 800 of those critical incidents in a 20-year career. 800 times that they're in one of those crazy, insane, you don't even know what's happening around you type incidents. 800. We have no idea how many they've dealt with on this shift. We have no idea how many they've dealt with this week. We have no idea if they're dealing with PTSD. We have no clue. And the other part that comes along with pulling people over is, as a police officer pulls over a vehicle, I know that I'm a good person. You know that you're a good person. You know that you're not going to pull a gun on them all of a sudden. But did you know that one of the most dangerous things that police officers do is traffic stops? because they have no idea what's in that car, because so many times people will pull a weapon on them, because people are so hostile towards them, because they're on the side of the road and officers get hit and killed by other vehicles when they're not paying attention that there's a cop there on the side of the road. It's a very stressful thing, and it seems like such a small incident to pull someone over because my taillight is out, right? But those simple little moments in their day can explode into these huge insane things, and they do on a very regular basis. And so they are on high alert every time they're pulling over a car because they have no clue what they're walking up to. Yeah, sometimes they're going to be a little bit curt and maybe even a little bit rude, but I have to give them credit. I don't blame them for behaving that way because they have to in order to protect themselves from the things that they deal with every day. Final question. This one's a big involved situation. I don't want it to seem like I'm judging the situation or placing blame where it shouldn't be. So I'm not going to give a lot of details. The basic gist is there was a violent criminal who was running through a neighborhood. Officers were out looking for this person. A homeowner heard something happening outside, went outside with a weapon, a gun, in order to figure out what was going on and protect his house and his family. And the officer that was looking for the armed criminal came upon him. Their descriptions were very similar. The officer ended up pulling the trigger and the homeowner passed away. And they later found the actual criminal like a block over, a street over, something like that, very close by. So the question is, are cops just trigger happy? How does something like this occur? There's not a lot of information, and any information that we get from the media is through that lens of mainstream media, which is very, very stilted. The media, they often do not report factually. There can be glimmers of fact in there, but oftentimes it is sensationalized in order to get clicks and in order to get views. And I know some of you are going to say, yeah, right, the media isn't going to lie to us, but I've seen it time and time again that this has occurred, that we're sitting in bed or we're sitting on the couch and the news comes on and there's an incident that he was there. He was involved in this incident. He knows firsthand what happened, and the way the media portrays it is nowhere close to reality. So I have a really hard time passing judgment on this situation for either side because the only information I have is coming through the lens of the media. With that said, one article stated that this homeowner had been out and about in the neighborhood, had seen officers, and the officers had asked him, have you seen anyone that meets this description? He said no, he went back home. And later on, that homeowner heard the noise and chose to go out in his backyard with a gun. I think that his intentions were good. I think that he was trying to protect his home and trying to protect his wife and his children, and I don't fault him for that. For myself, I would never walk outside if I know that the neighborhood is full of police officers that are searching for someone at night. I would never, ever walk outside at all, but especially not armed. Because again, just like when they pull someone over, officers do not know what they're walking into. Now, I don't know that this is what happened in this situation, but what I'm picturing is homeowners out in his backyard. The officers are still walking the neighborhood and trying to find this person that they know is violent, that they know what he looks like, they know what he's carrying. This officer comes into the backyard, which they have every right to do when they are searching for someone in this type of scenario. Come around the corner, the homeowner has heard someone coming around the corner, so now the homeowner has his gun up and ready. The officer comes around. All he sees is a gun pointed at him and somebody who matches that description. His training is going to kick in and he's going to pull that trigger. But if you had walked around the corner in the middle of the night and all you see is the barrel of the gun and you've been told that someone who looks just like the person holding that gun is a violent criminal, would you stop to ask questions before you protected yourself? It was a horrible accident. I wish that it hadn't occurred. It's something that is heartbreaking and should not happen. Absolutely. But I see both sides. I see why the homeowner went outside and wanted to protect his family. I see why the police officer came around the corner and immediately thought, of course this is the criminal, and pulled that trigger. I don't know all the details. I don't know all the facts. My heart breaks for everyone involved, because how awful is that to have your husband taken away from you when he was simply trying to protect you and your kids? And how awful is that for that police officer to know that he thought he was doing what was right and unintentionally hurt an innocent person and took away an innocent life? That's heartbreaking and awful in both sides. So are cops trigger happy? No. They have to go into every situation assuming that that person in front of them is trying to kill them, because criminals are tricky and they are deceitful. And unfortunately, sometimes mistakes happen like this. And I wish that wasn't the case, but that is humanity, isn't it? I mean, we all make mistakes, and some mistakes are a whole lot heavier than others. If you guys have any more questions that you are curious about being married to an officer, maybe something that I said here has sparked another question for you, stick that in the comments below. I'm more than happy to answer whatever questions you guys have. Thank you guys so much for watching my Police Wife Q&A today. Have a fantastic day, everybody. The Otter Mama signing out.